All right, we're going to talk about the cost of home ownership today. So when you're going to buy a house, most of the time you have to take out a loan. Well, that's called a mortgage. So a mortgage is a long-term installment loan. So you're going to be paying essentially the same amount every single month for so many years. These can be 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. They even have them now 50 years. They can be very long. You pay, most of your interest is paid up front, and what happens is you pay very little principal on it as you progress, and then it switches to where your last few payments is almost all principal and very little interest. So this payment formula should look very familiar. This is the same payment formula that you had for your car, that kind of stuff. So this is a payment is the amount of the loan times R over N divided by the quantity 1 minus 1 plus R over N to the negative NT power, okay? And so now our first example says the price of a home is $195,000. The bank requires 10% down. The loan is a 30-year fixed at 7.5%, okay? So the first thing we need to know is how much down payment we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 195,000 times 10%, okay? And what that's going to give us is $19,500. So we now have to have $19,500 down that we're just going to put towards the purchase price of it. Okay? So our mortgage amount is going to be the difference of this. So 195,000 minus 19,500 for a grand total of 175,500. Okay, so 175,500. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the payment amount. So this is going to be our loan amount, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to find our payment. So what that's going to be is 175,500 times, well, my interest rate in decimal form is 0.075 over N. Well, remember, N is how many times are we making the payment? So it's monthly, so 12 over 1 minus 1 plus 0.075 divided by 12 minus 12 times 30. Okay? So we're going to take our calculator, plug that all in here. I already have the 175,500, so times 0.075 divided by 12. So this top is going to be 1,096.875. And on the bottom, divided by 12, do the, and now, so this is going to give us 0.89386, and now I'm going to divide those out. So 1096.875 divided by 0.89386. So we're at approximately $1,227.12. So this is how much you're going to have to pay each month. Okay? Now, one of the things that they don't tell you, this is not actually how much your payment's going to be. Okay, so this is just how much your payment is going to be for taxes or for principal and interest. On top of this, you also have your property taxes that you have to pay. Typically, if you have a mortgage, you're going to have to pay a portion of that each month to the mortgage company so that they can make sure your taxes are paid. And you're going to have insurance on it because you don't own the house outright, so you're going to have property insurance, and you pay that a little piece each month. and then your mortgage company pays it all for you to the company. The other thing is you might be required to have mortgage insurance. And mortgage insurance is an insurance that is paid directly to the company that kind of insures your value of your home. So if you have a default, they would be able to pay it off. Okay, none of that money goes, and you have to usually work down to where you have 80% loan to value before the mortgage insurance kicks off. So this is not going to be how much you're paying each month. This is only how much is paying for principal and interest. Okay. So when you're looking at going to buy a home, these are some good guidelines to go by. These are right out of your book, and it says determine what you can afford. Okay, so spend no more than 28% of your monthly gross on your mortgage. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find out how much is your gross income divided by 12 and then times it by 0.28. That's going to tell you how much money you can spend on mortgage. Okay. Now the next thing is spend no more than 36% of your monthly gross income on total debt. So total debt includes your mortgage, your car payment, credit card bills, student loans, anything that you have to pay a monthly fee for is going to be within this 36%. Okay, so these are what we call credits. Okay. So example 3 says, let's say you make $25,000 per year. That's your annual gross income, right? So remember that annual gross income is not actually how much money you're bringing home each month. It's how much money you're making. So you're going to have taxes and stuff to take out there. So we want to calculate the maximum amount you should spend on a mortgage. Okay, so we're going to take $25,000. We're going to divide it by 12. That's going to give us $2,083. We're going to take $2,083 and we're going to multiply that by 0.28 for approximately $583. So you can spend $583 on a mortgage each month. So the maximum you should spend for total credit obligations. So now we're going to take that $2,083 and we're going to times it by 0.36. So we're going to have approximately $750. So if we look at this, so 750 minus 583, so we have $167 to go towards all these other credit debts. Okay, so if you have a car, if you're paying off a car, sometimes that makes it very difficult because a lot of times getting a car payment under that is going to be difficult. If you have credit cards or if you have student loans, that all goes towards that total amount. Okay. If my mortgage was 80% of this value, I would multiply this by 0.8 to find out that value. Okay. So the last thing is we're going to talk about some of the benefits and hindrances of this. Before we do that, we're going to talk about an amortization schedule. So when you go buy a home, what they're going to do is they're going to show you every single payment. If it's a 30-year fix, they're going to show you all 360 payments. They're going to show you how much is going in principal, how much is going towards interest, and they're going to kind of show you all these totals. And so a lot of times when you look at this amortization, you're going to see that your first payment is going to be hardly any principal. It's going to be almost entirely interest. And it doesn't switch until you get about halfway through, and then the principal takes over. One of the things that you'll also notice when you look at an amortization schedule is that when I pay for this, my loan here is $175,500. So that's going to be the principal. My interest is going to be way more than that. So your interest typically is going to be more than the price of the home that you bought. Okay, especially if you take this amortization out the whole way. But you don't have to find those amortization schedules when you go get a mortgage. They're going to provide them for you. Okay, so some of the things that we want to look at is the benefits of renting versus buying, okay? Because there are benefits to both. Benefits to renting. Typically, you don't have to have this large down payment, or you don't have to purchase points. You typically have a security deposit, but it's not the same as having a large down payment, okay? You can be mobile. You can move every year, so depending on what your renting lease agreement is, you may move every 6 months, every year. You can be pretty mobile. If you get a new job, it's very easy to move to accommodate that new job. So it doesn't tie down hundreds of thousands of dollars into one item, okay? So typically it may involve lower monthly expenses. A lot of times you're going to have amenities. You might have a swimming pool or an exercise facility, tennis courts, basketball courts, things like that. You avoid falling house prices. So if something happens in the neighborhood, you're not going to be affected by that because you're renting. You don't have property taxes. Repair costs are generally dealt with by the owner of the property that you're renting from. Okay. So what are some benefits to home ownership? Well, you actually have some stability. Okay. Provides significant tax advantages, right? There's no chance of rent increasing. This is going to be your payment. Now, this payment is going to go up and down as property taxes increase or values go up and go down, but it's going to be fairly stable. So it allows you to do what you want within reason to that house. If you're in a subdivision, you do have to abide by the subdivision's rules and regulations, but it allows you to do the inside how you want it. It allows you to do your landscaping kind of how you want it. Okay, you can build equity into a home where you don't get from renting. Equity is how much is the value of the home more than than you owe, and then it allows you to have that ability to actually physically own it. So that's home ownership and kind of an idea of what it all entails.